So, the US are currently light years ahead of us in terms of realism. So like I said in the different from the others video, the perfect sort of sweet spot for me in realism is somewhere between the objective distancing of German new objectivity and the visual storytelling of Kammerspiel, and I think this film perfectly sits in there. It seems like the sort of film where people will say nothing really happens. You just get a sort of, you just sit to view objectively a period in the life of the 17-year-old Autumn Callahan, who finds herself pregnant and travelling from Pennsylvania to New York to get an abortion. And so it sort of seems like nothing really happens, but even the trip itself is part of the cinematic storytelling. We're joining this girl as she's becoming a woman, which is also exasperated by her being pregnant. So there's already there's a sort of tension scene there because we're joining her life at a time of tension and change, and then we're turning that up more. And then the fact that she can't have the abortion in her hometown, she has to travel to a new city to get a new different city. So all this is part of the storytelling, even though it doesn't seem like it is. Because when we get to New York City, we don't even get those generic skyline shots like in Cop Out or something like that. We don't get shots of Times Square. We don't see anything of New York. We only see what these characters see. It's a new and dangerous place, and everything's sort of kept within the frame. So anything that could happen there, we don't know. We know as much as they do. We're left there, and none of this is explained. Like if it was a Ken Loach film, they would explain this, saying, "Oh, you better watch out if you go to New York because it's dangerous." But we don't get that. We only have the information that these characters have. So we're put in their position, but that's what's so smart about it, is that we're only picking up on that sort of psychologically. It's only if you really look at it in detail in a very nerdy way like I am that you see that the way that this is framed, the way that they sort of look around and see different characters, just little glimpses of the city, but you don't get a big picture of the city. So it always seems alien to you because it is to them, and it does, it could be potentially dangerous, it could be fine, you don't know. You aren't given answers. It's not a film that gives answers, but it is a film that raises questions.
She needs to get her head checked.
So there's this scene where the title of the film comes from, where she gets to the sort of abortion clinic and she's asked these questions, which is this scene. It stays on her almost all the way through. This objective thing, which again it isn't actually objective, but it gives you that feeling. And also the woman asking the questions, I don't think was an actor. I think she was actually just running through this procedure. So that scene could have been just done objectively and not have any sort of emotional connection to it. That would be the sort of the new German objectivity way to do it. It's not have anything going on in the scene, to just show it as it is, which is kind of what happens. But the subtle thing about it is the answers, the questions that she's asked are triggering to her. But you're not sure where. So it's drawing you in and making you think that. And because you have questions about who is the father, you don't know anything about how she's become pregnant, what her relationships are, and all of those things sort of come out in this questioning, but aren't explained to you in the way that they would in maybe a Ken Loach film.
Is that your house?
Should have been our house, but 10 years ago the Northern Rock crash happened.
Oh, yeah.
They would say that, or they would show that. Who the father was he violent, stuff like that. You don't get that. What you get in the scene is her responding emotionally to these questions in different ways, and it's making you sort of look and engage with it to do that in the way that The Last Tree did. A similar scene where it lingered on this guy and we got nothing from the scene other than he was angry, and shouting at him just made him angrier. This film, you're gaining more insights by paying attention more, which is that is great cinema to me.
Okay. And how many sexual partners have you had in the last 12 months?
2.
The film is full of such subtle moments of human connection and human emotion that are shown to us, not told to us. And that to me, that is just pure cinema. I love that. I love those real moments that even in real life you wouldn't really even see them a lot of the time, because of they're so subtle, and because unless you were really close to the person, you wouldn't understand the significance of it. But because we're really close to these people, because of how intimate and how well shot the film is, and how it's covering a lot of ground, but seemingly not. There's a lot of juggling going on here. Like I say in The Last Tree, there was some, like in that film there was realism, and then it would have these sort of arty flourishes that take you out of that. But this film has everything is encapsulated in the realism, but it's telling it in. It's subtly doing things to you and subtly. It's great. I think the Safdie brothers sort of do it. Maybe it's a New York thing. I don't know, but the Safdie brothers sort of do that as well, where their realism is. The surface of the film is realism, but there's all these mechanics underneath that you kind of miss because of the realism. There's something going on in US realism that's far more interesting than where we are in the UK for the most part.
Hey, excuse me.
Yeah, it's hitting that sweet spot, and I think Lynn Ramsey was doing that at the start. I think, but I'm not sure now. I think there's something missing from her films. They're still constructed very well, but the plots aren't. The plot, there's something about the plots that are just contrived. I mean, You Were Never Really Here was just sort of a mashup of Taxi Driver and Buffalo 66, and the acting was great. The actual editing and the cinematography are good, but we've seen it before. Now these films are doing something like, how can a film about someone who's just going to get an abortion? I mean, it's not an exciting plot, but it's the way that it's done. The way that it's done is just so good, and it hits that sort of sweet spot that only Kozlowski really could do before, where the film is smart and the film is arty, but it's also humble and human. Usually you go either way. You go sort of Kubrick, where it's just cerebral and intellectual, or you'll go maybe Mike Lee, that's very personal and intimate, and there's not. That's more about, there's thinking and there's feeling. And this film is doing both of those at the same time, but the thinking's very subversive, so you feel more than you think. It's all a juggling act, and this is perfect. It's just juggling it perfectly. I can't wait to see more of Eliza Hittman's films. I think this is her third film, so I want to see what else she's been up to, because I love this film. I don't know if I would love it as much if I hadn't seen two films I was disappointed with directly before, but we'll see, because I'm going to watch all the other films, and I'll get back to you about that. So yeah, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Often, 9 out of 10. Definitely check it out if you're wanting that sort of realism, which you should be, because that's what you're here for. So, have you seen the film? Tell us below if you've seen the film, what you thought of it. If you think I'm completely wrong about it, tell me also. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you got to do, and I'll be back next week with another Reviews on Realism. Thank you.